Hi, I'm Dr. Manisha Saxena, and I welcome author Vivek Chaturvedi here. Both of us are going to speak on the interesting topic of city-centric thrillers. And it's interesting to know that both of us have written thriller novels, fiction novels, where Goa is the setting. Goa, the oceanic paradise, which is thronged by tourists both from India and abroad, is the setting of our novel. So here we are to discuss for the YouTube channel of the Book Bakers that why we have chosen Goa as our setting for our thriller novels. Before that, let me introduce Vivek. So Vivek is a full-time banker in his economic life. He is a biking enthusiast and an adventure lover at heart. He has a commendable record of extreme sports, including skydiving, bungee jumping, scuba diving, parasailing, and is a tough motorcyclist, having undertaken several Himalayan rides on his bike. He has spent the first 30 years of his life in Goa, closely watching it as it transformed from full-on hippie heaven of 80s into a commercial tourist paradise of the present. His education at Goa Engineering College and Goa Institute of Management, together with an eclectic experience gained by working at Wipro Technologies and the State Bank of India, has given him a long understanding of life. He now presents his first novel titled The Secret of the Stolen Idols. Vivek is currently working on a non-fiction book also on entrepreneurship, drawing from his vast experience of financial business. The book is expected to be out early next year. And now something about me. I'm Dr. Manisha Saxena, based at Bharuch, Gujarat, and I'm a pediatrician by profession and an author by passion. Writing for me started very early at the age of 13 when I wrote my first short story for my school magazine, for the Silver Jubilee edition of my school magazine of Mount Carmel Convent. Later, I used to contribute articles, poems, and blogs for my school and college journals. Later on, I contributed blogs for the Citizen, Journalist, CNN, IBN. And my debut novel was out in November 2016. It was titled Natal Fault and available worldwide through Amazon and other e-commerce sites. Now, my second novel titled Blue Jeans. It's a crime thriller. It's about to be out in the market next month. And the setting of the novel is in Goa. So let us now move ahead with the session. So Vivek.
Yes, Manisha, thanks for the lovely introduction of me, my book. And,
nice having you on the panel here.
Yes,
so let us
pleasure is mine.
Let us inform the readers and let's have a look at your book and my book too. So Vivek, Goa has a vast history, and how do you think an author could bring about the best in it without making the book a textbook?
See, Goa's history is indeed what you said is perfectly correct. Very, very vast. There are multiple phases. There's prehistoric sites in Goa, Harappan sites, and then there is ancient history where Vedic influence was there. A lot of Vedic and Mahabharata history is there. Then you have Mughal history and even Guptas, Cholas, their histories. Then Westerners' conquest, notably the Portuguese, whose influence still remains in Goa. And then, of course, there is modern India. So, such an elaborate history can never be accomplished to be, filled up in one book, even if it's a history encyclopedia. So, generally, when it comes to a fiction book, what I would, my approach would be, and has been for my previous book, is to pick maybe one, historical eon for the book. So, if you are focusing on the Portuguese conquest of Goa or ancient history, then really we have to focus on that particular timeline. And maybe expand on that time and then compare it to another time. In general, a book cannot really be very interesting if you don't make a comparison. Especially if you are talking about a city-centric book, there has to be a comparison to what people understand today. So if today Goa, in the eyes of readers or travelers, or even so many movies are there based in Goa, if that view has to be compared to an earlier view, that is what can bring out the historical aspects of Goa. So in general, what I have done is I haven't gone very deep in my book of in Portuguese times or even ancient. I made passing references to ancient Vedic cultures of what may have existed in Goa, the remnants of which are still there everywhere. Everywhere you look, there are broken, ruined temples, and all these areas are replete with historical sites. But in general, the signature of Portuguese conquest that remains very strong. Even that is slipping into history, by the way, because the upkeep of all these sites is now, I think, on the poor side. The cathedrals, the churches, they are all slowly getting either modernized or dilapidated completely, being left to the ruins. So you pick up one historical timeline, and then you make a reference in that, and then you come back to modern times, and then you show the departure of how life is today vis-a-vis how it has been earlier. So in my book, I have expanded slightly on how it would have been when the Portuguese first came to Goa. So there, at that point in time itself, two timelines overlap: pre-Portuguese conquest and Portuguese. And the majority of the book is not in history. It's in present times only, and in present recent times, say about 10 years coverage is there in the book. So in general, without making a book a very boring history book, you have to pick up some certain important historical turning points or things that you can either relate with, or somewhere somebody has read that in history books or seen in a movie, and then expand on that. Fictionalize certain aspects of that time. Don't change the history too much, but bring in a fictional character, and then let that setting tell the history of it. So that is generally how we can bring out some historical concepts of any city, any place, any village, any mountain in a fictional setting. That's my view.
That is really a good insight into the making of the thriller, your book, and by taking important elements from the history of Goa and then plotting your own story. Really, it's the same way.
So can I in fact just take this, because in your book very interestingly is based in Goa only, and I, having lived 30 years in Goa, I can dig very deep in this, but generally to understand why you have chosen Goa is slightly something which is mysterious to me, and I'm sure your new book Blue Jeans, people will be intrigued. I mean, why a non-Goan has written extensively in Goa? That's something that
Yeah. Actually, it is a very interesting story. When I had written my first novel, and I was marketing for the first novel was out almost in November 16, and I was spreading word about it. It was my debut novel, and I was not very much familiar with the process of marketing and spreading word about it. And but slowly I realized over a time, it was almost around 2018 when I started thinking over a new project. But that time I was at loss of ideas, where to start, what to pick up, what should be the theme of my next novel, because Natal Fault was entirely a different thing. It is a contemporary fiction, entirely a different genre, and I was always enamored by thrillers. Then you won't believe, and actually it is
that's
weird.
a love I also share.
Yeah, but it is weird, but it is a fact that one night I really had a dream, and in that dream I got the image of this blonde, beautiful blonde lady, and some inner voice said that this particular lady should be the protagonist of your second novel. Now that was the only inkling, only idea that percolated, and that too in a dream. Now I started thinking over it, and I had been to Goa several times. I think I've been to Goa several times, and I was quite much impressed by the place. It uses a different charm and enchantment and excitement, everything. It has a beautiful landscape, seascape. So I placed and because it is thronged by tourists, so I thought a beautiful blonde could be best in India. If I have to plot my story, she could be best placed in Goa. And gradually, since Goa has so many elements, so I wove out a story around her. Later on, all the characters that came into the novel by and by, the story gradually developed. And since I was also familiar with the lifestyle and culture and heritage of Goa, so it was quite thrilling and interesting for me to jot down this story. So that's how the plot developed. And moreover, there was one more thing in my mind. I wanted to write something for the younger generation, which should be full of energy and action. So that's how the story developed, and I hope the readers would love it. Something that just came out of a small dream.
So this is a thriller, or it's more of a romantic?
Yeah. It is a crime thriller.
Oh.
It is a crime thriller. Yeah.
That's
And it also has 2 time frames, 2 parallel stories running within it.
Achha. So separated by a generation, or just a few years or decades? How is it?
Actually, one is totally contemporary, and the other one is not much. It just goes laid back only in the late 1990s. Not
that's
many
quite
years.
similar to my time frame.
Yeah.
So just about, your book, if I may ask, does it cover a particular part of Goa or the whole state? And you already actually answered much of the question that I had in my mind. I mean,
It covers different points within Goa.
Achha. So this blonde girl could
We'll be coming over to it. Now, I would like to ask you, do you think as an author should capitalize on the city's existing charm or risk bringing the art of hidden gems and secret tales as well?
I think this is slightly difficult, and it also depends on how an author wants to bring out his tale. A very easy way is to actually relate to the existing charms. I mean, most Bollywood movies you will see do exactly that. They will refer to Goa as a very, very touristy destination with parties and a lot of drugs, and they will not bother or endeavor to change that view of Goa. So whenever you bring out a different or an unknown aspect of a city or even a person or even a historical time frame, you need to make an effort to change the view. So in that you take a risk. Goa is known as a commercial tourist paradise. So now, could we risk making it a historical place? Could we make it, take the risk of actually depicting Goa as it was called the Kashi of the East? Is it even possible that we can show Goa in a Vedic contemporary setting? Can we have a story built around temples rather than churches in Goa? So when you talk about why just Goa? If you talk about Bombay, all movies about Bombay are either showbiz or crime. Can there be any other aspect of a city as beautiful as Bombay or Delhi? Delhi is always about politics or raw or CBI, but Delhi has so many other things. So a city has numerous lives. It has numerous atmas. Which of these we pick? And whether those atmas and souls and spirits are actually known to people. Do we associate with the city for a particular trait, and can we dare to expand on another trait which is not very popular? That will depend on how beautifully you can make your character and bring life into a city. So when it comes to my book, I'm sure you've done that. We brought a different angle for Goa. We haven't gone to a very touristy place. Yes, naturally I've covered that. I mean, I dare say about 30-35% of the book setting, whenever it is specifically in Goa instead of characters or the crime or the discovery of any clue, it really relates to the contemporary assumption of what Goa really is, which is a commercial tourist paradise. But in the remaining 70%, I've tried to bring out other aspects. Historically, Goa has not been a commercial paradise. In fact, it was only 1999 when it actually became a totally tourist place with that new millennium coming in. Earlier, there was so much else. There was trance music, it was completely different. Psychedelic music, completely different. What you and I probably cannot associate with us. So those aspects had to be brought out. But you have to bring it out in such a manner that people not just accept that, people actually fall in love with it. Otherwise, our book is a flop show. So certainly, I think authors, it is up to you and me, in fact, to bring out a city's charms, whether known or not, all in the front. Certainly, we have to try and sell our books. So acceptance has to be there. I mean, we can't take any village and make it, completely glorified commercial paradise in a book. It is not. But certainly there will be some aspects of that place which can be and are worth bringing out. So that we should try and endeavor to do. And I think if we can do that well, that book is going to be a bestseller based only on the site alone, the set alone, even if our stories are not as good. So I think we should do that. And that's what I've tried. I'm sure you would try that and do videos.
I think you have made a very good attempt because your long-term association with Goa and your deep author's insight of bringing out what was yet unknown to general public. That is a very good attempt on your part, and I wish your book very well, that people and readers take it with love and it becomes a bestseller.
So just to ask, I mean, how badly, because you've already, I mean, kind of said that you are a blonde girl, generally the best fit would be in Goa. I think even that is again a slight bit of a stereotype. But how nicely could that girl actually fit in any other place? I mean, how important is the setting of Goa per se for the novel? And not after having completed it. Once the book is complete, Goa becomes a very important part of it. But at the onset of writing that book, could that girl have been in Kasol or Manali as well? Or how deeply Goa is a character in the book itself? The blonde girl is, but how deeply is Goa a character in the book?
Yeah, because different parts of India. India is a great tourist destination, and we have foreign tourists almost at all of the places, and especially in Goa. But since from the beginning, I wanted it to be a thriller, as I said before, and I saw that beautiful blonde Jean, to be precise, and I placed her in Goa. So I started weaving a story around her, and my book is totally city centric, and it could not have been placed at any other place, I would say, because I started weaving. I started keeping her in Goa, and then the story was woven, taking not much, but at least 25 to 30 years back, and taking into account the history of Goa, the people from the last Portuguese generations who were still living in the mansions, and some of them were converted into hotels, the tourist destinations. So taking all these things into account, a story was woven, and I think that kind of setup could not have been possible at any other place. Bringing the thrills and twists and turns in the tales. So it is Goa centric, totally.
Same with my book, in fact, because I also, the book is not just about the characters. As I've said, I mean, that life of the place is very important. So at this point in time, after having written 80 pages, it's very difficult to imagine that book of mine also being elsewhere. Anyway, you were saying something, please.
Goa has a different culture from the rest of India, as we all see. And since the history is also different, when the whole of India was under the British rule, it was under the Portuguese rule. So all that has affected its culture greatly, and the recent past of Goa. So spinning or weaving a tale in Goa is quite a interesting and enthusiastic task on the part of the writer. And since I was also in love with the place and in love with the history of and culture of Goa, so it made my task quite easy. In your case, how do you create a character? How do you create a character of a city? How is life imbibed in it in a novel?
This is I think the strongest point that an author needs to have, man. Because amongst about 80-90 novels that I would have read till now, I don't think even a single good book is there which doesn't in fact make a city or a town or a country a part of that thing as a living being. So how do you do it? I mean, you start with a character, obviously, and then you expand slightly on the set. Whenever you talk about the set, I don't mean the house. I mean where he is living, what he is doing. So normally people would authors rather would initiate describing a character of where he is, how he is traveled, and where his house was and all that. So a deep starting like that, I mean the historical context of where he is living, how long he's been there in that particular place, and quickly bring in a reference of which generation he has spent and what his father has done. That brings some kind of time frame. No sooner you have a second generation reference, then people start associating that place as something that has evolved. No sooner there is evolution in a place, some life comes in. So what you have done and what I have done, we've gone to 1990s and we've gotten contemporary life. So with these 20-30 years, we have given that place a life already. If we don't consider, if we make the entire story very static in terms of time, वो यहाँ से चला गया उधर और उधर गोली मार दी और पुलिस आ गया, that will certainly not bring in life for that particular city or state.
Yeah.
So temporal reference has to be brought in. Then comes description. How beautiful that place is, how it has devolved or evolved, how majestic the new building has become, or how majestic it was and now it has dilapidated. This brings in life to a character, to a city. Then second step, what I will do is make that person very deeply emotionally attached to a place. Whether he is living there now or not, he misses that place and he used to enjoy that place, or he remembers very depressing attributes of that place and he is happy that he is away from that place. So these are the characters in which how we build up some emotions for a place. And no sooner there are emotions for a place, that place becomes alive and it becomes a character in that novel. So that area or the set or the city or the state becomes as important as the protagonist or the villain of the movie or your book. So generally we have to move in these steps. You describe how the thing is and how it evolves. No sooner there is this comparison, evolution comes in, and evolution brings in life. I think you have done that perfectly well as well, from what we have come to understand. So generally this is how I will do things even in my subsequent books, and all the good books that I've read, whether it's Shantaram. Shantaram has written one of the best books about Bombay. He describes Goa also very well. Paul William Roberts has done such a remarkable job of describing Anjuna, Goa, Bombay, Jaisalmer. So those areas go into your memory as if you've been there, when you really not. That's the life of a character of a city. It's a skill set that I think we can hone up, and your extensive reading, and then you yourself develop that skill. Generally, this is the process I will follow.
Actually, that is very important. Yeah. Actually, that is very important, and I always feel that many of the strong novels that we have read in the past, even big authors, famed authors also, in many of the novels, the city is the central character, and the story builds around that. And often, when I was writing my first novel and I was in Surat, I was also very much impressed with the city. It has a different culture, a Gujarati culture, a different, food habits, lifestyle, culture. Everything in Surat is different from many parts of the India. And, a writer can be inspired at any moment of time. And that time I was inspired with the thought that every city has a tale that should be brought up in the work of the writer. And in my previous novel, that's why I, though it's not Surat, but it is a smaller town, and it is a fictional town, but it has that Gujarati habits and lifestyle and all. So talking of Goa, we got a great insight from your answers.
So just to ask, now that both of us are actually, I have already written something about Goa. It's generally a thriller only. Although I don't want to constrain my book as just a crime thriller, and yours is also on those lines only. How important and how great do you think Goa would be a setting for other books to come? Thrillers, in fact, in Goa used to be very regular in Bollywood in 70s of all time, 60s and 70s. I think thereafter there have been only very simple drug-related, mafia-related and honeymoon-related movies coming in. So a revival of thrillers in Goa, madam? And why? Why do you think Goa can offer a great setting for thrillers?
Of course, whenever we think of thrillers, we think of something which is fast-paced, which can keep the reader on the edge of the seat, which gives you a rush of adrenaline, which is enchanting, enticing. All those things, they come into mind when you think of a thriller. Okay. So I think you'll agree with it that Goa has all these elements, and which are not seen in other cities. As you said that in Bombay, it is a different scene. In Delhi, it is mostly about politics and crime. Or Kolkata also, it is most related to the, crime and either the classic part of the Kolkata, when it's ancient, rich, past cultural heritage and all. So Goa has a thing which is very suitable for the thrillers. But yes, I feel that since the landscape is very beautiful, so a romance novel could also be very well set in Goa. A contemporary fiction, why not? Contemporary fiction has a vast range, so it can be very well set in Goa. horror can be set in Goa, taking into account the dilapidated structures, as you said, the ancient structures. You can, any writer can work on it, and a horror novel can also be set in Goa. Historical fiction is another genre which can very well be set in Goa because of its rich cultural past.
Talking of horror, there are in fact there are several horror real haunted places in Portsmouth Fort is an amazing history. I mean, Princess Catherine's spirit in fact haunts that area. So there are real very nice haunted places. I mean, picking up any of those stories, real stories, and actually writing a story about it, a tale about it, it's going to be amazing. There's no doubt.
Those for some of the readers, actually horror genre is developing still in India. Worldwide, it is in the Western world, it is quite a popular genre, but in India still it is getting popular with few of the writers, few of our Indian writers beginning in category. So I hope all these genres are also well set in Goa in the future. So, Vivek, would you suggest traveling to or staying in the city before venturing to write about it, or secondary data is sufficient to write about a city or city-centric novel as such?
It depends on both things, madam. I mean, if you're writing only in a particular place, I mean, extensively, especially if there is a very deep emotional connect of your characters with the place where he is living, where that place has had a bearing on his emotions or his life, or the way he lives his life, is very important to understand how that place deals with people. Then I think we should actually spend some time. Otherwise, in today's very highly connected lifestyle, we generally get to understand how people are living in different places because we've got friends from everywhere. I mean, now I'm talking to you, you are from Gujarat, so I can have a fairly good understanding if I associate with you about how life could be in Surat. And for life, how it is in Goa, I mean, I can give you deep insights. So slowly, I think the necessity of actually spending a lot of time in a particular place is getting minimized. But to truly bring out some beauty of a particular place, I think you have to at least travel, spend a month and a half to at least you have your basic framework of the story, of the characters before you go to that place, and then know which areas you actually want to study. Take some videos, discuss with some people, live instead of a hotel, stay in a homestay.
Homestay, yes.
Yeah, so spend a month. I mean, 15-20 days understanding, I think, would deeply increase our confidence of what we are saying. The same 5 lines I can write before staying and after staying. But the conviction that
whatever the author has to be authentic about his writing.
Absolutely.
So his or her writing. So of course, a deep connect with the place is very essential.
Yeah. So in my book also, I have brought out only 3 places. Goa is 95% of that entire book. 5% would be Thailand, and 5% or 10% would be in fact Himalaya. So these are 3 places that I've spent quite a lot of time on. And all the activities that are discussed in the book, whether it's skydiving or deep snow treks, all these things I have done myself. So that connect and the emotional, that you use the word adrenaline, that rush I have felt jumping off a plane.
Yes.
So unless you feel that, if you imagine how one must feel when you free falling from an aircraft, not knowing if it's the last 10 seconds, you can't write. And even if you write, you don't know the perfect. So staying there.
Even though I'm not a very good, I'm not a very sports person, and I'm not a very daring person as such, as far as physical activities are concerned. But yes, I did try parasailing at Goa, and I was successful. It was several years back, and we were 2 of us. So there was a person accompanying me up there. It was quite thrilling and quite enchanting, and it was very risky, but I tried it.
Parasailing I had done in Nepal. Parasailing I had done in Nepal, and skydiving in Thailand. So it's just very different. Jumping off plane is crazy. You should try it someday.
Goa also offers different water sports and all kinds of activities, fun-filled activities. So it's very good for tourists and travelers.
So what specifically of Goa have you brought out in your book? I mean, which is different from what people generally know? I mean, how deep you have gone? Just I'm a little more curious because I spent so much time there. So what aspects? Are those Portuguese connections or historical connections or language or how free people in Goa are? and the drinking problems. What are the areas that you actually try to cover?
I think all the points that you just asked me, all those points have been covered in some way or the other, because they are the what should we say, the benchmarks, benchmarks of Goa can be depicted.
Yes.
But yes, besides visiting Goa several times, I did delve into dig into the history of Goa, so that I know actually the food habits and the ethnic habits of the people there. And yes, the tale that I've woven, that basically it is the Portuguese part. What is there is there are two parallel tales. One is totally a crime thriller and connected with the drug underworld. The other part which is there is that there is a Casa Rio called a hotel, which was a 450-year-old Portuguese villa, and in recent times it is converted into a hotel. So I've taken up family saga, and which revolves around the people of Casa Rio. So that is a fictional hotel, but that brings a new point in the book. So that's.
Can I ask one? I don't know if it is too early to disclose. What surnames have you used? Monteiro? Going back to 450 years, it's Indian. What is the surname of your main character? Or is it too early to talk about it?
Yeah, it is too early to.
I'll be forced to buy a book.
Sure. Yes, and your review would be very important for me, because you have spent 30 long years at the place, and you are connected.
It's definitely what, in fact, in my book.
Actually, since we have a same literary agent, I would like to say that one of the characters, Amelia Rodriguez, another is Peter, another is like this. We have different characters. Martha is there. So when Sohail Mathur, when he read the first draft of the novel, he said, "Why are all the characters named?" So I said that when you are basing your novel at Goa, of course you can't have characters called Ram and Shyam. The characters should be related to the place. So so as you said that I have. That's why I just studied the history of Goa and tried to. Do justice to the thing.
Yeah, and it's very important actually, because your surnames become important, because if it is indeed a 450-year-old family, then we are talking about the people who moved in at that time.
Yeah.
So D'Souza's and Costas came in later. So that family couldn't have been 400 years old. So that's why I was just asking. And it's very interesting. Okay. I'm sure you've done that research, because Rodriguez and all were the earlier movies. So you're right about that. Anyway, nice chatting, madam. Really a topic very close to me, and not just in that trying to bring a city to life. Specifically, that both of us have written about Goa. I now live in Noida, and I've been out of Goa generally, except for occasional tourist visits, for about 10-12 years now. But my heart still resides there. Every day it's in Goa, and it's very difficult to get out of it. And I don't know if you've ever had a chat with Desmond Fernandez, who's also tied up with Sohail Mathur's TBD. So maybe he'll do a podcast one day with you. He's also from Goa, and he's doing a very, very good job with his YouTube podcast.
One of the characters in my book is also Fernandez. She's Lily Fernandez.
Okay.
Fernandez, but I don't know.
Not very old.
Okay.
But I'm sure it will be fantastic. It will be fantastic.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. Tell me, please. Tell me. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. I wish, and I think the readers and those who are watching this session must have had a good time, and they'll love your book, and they'll love my book also as it comes next month. So we wrap up this session on this good note. Wishing you all the best, and thank you, the Bookbakers, the YouTube, for providing us this platform, for sharing our thoughts on our novels. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bookbakers. Thank you, lots of you all. Who's your publisher going to be, ma'am?
Mine is the Vishwakarma publication.
That's good.
Vishwakarma.
Let's thank them as well. All the best.
Thank you so much.